The antiseptic smell hit me first, that sharp chemical bite that clings to hospital corridors like a warning. Then came the beeping, rhythmic and relentless, counting down seconds I didn't have left to count. My fingers trembled against the thin cotton sheets, too weak to grip, too tired to care. Through the narrow window, rain streaked the glass in silver rivers, blurring the city lights into watercolor smudges. I'd always hated hospitals. Now I was going to die in one. The nurse had stopped pretending I'd get better 3 days ago. I saw it in her eyes, that practiced sympathy, the way she touched my shoulder like I was already a memory. 26 years old, and this was how my story ended, not with love or adventure or any of the dreams I'd whispered to myself while scrubbing other people's floors. Just me, alone, in a room that smelled like the end of everything. I closed my eyes, trying to remember what warmth felt like. My apartment, if you could call that crumbling studio an apartment, had always been cold. But Mrs. Castellano's mansion, that had been different. For 3 years I'd walked those marble floors, dusted those crystal chandeliers, invisible among the luxury. The help never mattered to people like them. We were ghosts in aprons, moving through their lives without leaving fingerprints. The door creaked open. I didn't bother looking. Another nurse. Another needle. Another temporary fix for a permanent problem. But the footsteps were wrong, too heavy, too deliberate. Accompanied by a presence that changed the air pressure in the room, made my skin prickle with instinct I didn't understand. I forced my eyes open. 3 men stood in the doorway. The first 2 were massive, wearing dark suits that couldn't quite hide the bulges at their sides. Their eyes swept the room with mechanical precision. Corners, window, equipment, back to me. Security, the expensive kind. Then I saw him. He stood between them like a king between knights, and my breath caught despite the oxygen tube feeding my lungs. Tall, broad-shouldered, wearing a charcoal suit that probably cost more than every paycheck I'd ever earned combined. His face was all sharp angles and controlled power. Strong jaw, straight nose, dark eyes that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. His black hair was swept back perfectly, and when he moved, it was with the fluid confidence of a predator who'd never known fear. But it was the smell that paralyzed me. Expensive cologne, cedar and something darker, more dangerous, mixed with the scent of leather and gunpowder. A smell I recognized, Mr. Castellano, the son. I'd seen him maybe twice in 3 years, always from a distance, always surrounded by men like these. Mrs. Castellano had warned us on my first day. My son's business is not your concern. When he visits, you make yourself scarce. You see nothing, you hear nothing, you exist nowhere near him, understand? I'd understood. Everyone knew what the Castellano family really was. The mansion, the cars, the armed men. It wasn't old money or real estate or any of the polite lies the rich told themselves. It was blood money. Power built on fear. And now, he was here, in my hospital room. My heart monitor betrayed my panic, beeping faster. One of the guards moved his hand toward his jacket, but Mr. Castellano raised one finger. Just one, and the man froze. That casual gesture of absolute authority made my mouth go dry. "Out," Mr. Castellano said. His voice was low, quiet, but it carried the weight of an executioner's blade. The guards retreated immediately, closing the door behind them. The sound of it clicking shut felt like a tomb ceiling. We were alone. He moved closer, and I tried to shrink into the mattress, tried to disappear the way I'd perfected over years of being invisible. But his eyes pinned me in place, dark, intense, examining me like I was a puzzle he needed to solve. "Miss Elena Moretti," he said. And hearing my name in his mouth felt like a violation. Like he'd reached inside my chest and touched something private. "You worked for my mother." It wasn't a question. I managed a tiny nod, my throat too tight for words. He pulled a chair close to my bed, too close, and sat down with controlled grace. This near, I could see details I'd never noticed from across marble foyers. A thin scar cutting through his left eyebrow. The expensive watch on his wrist, heavy and platinum, the way his hands rested on his knees, perfectly still, like a snake before it strikes. "You've been here 2 weeks," he continued. those dark eyes never leaving mine. Stage 4. Inoperable. The doctors give you days, maybe a week if you're unlucky. The clinical recitation of my death sentence should have sounded cruel, but his tone was something else. Not sympathetic exactly, but not indifferent either. I didn't understand why he was here, why he knew these things, why he cared. I don't. My voice came out as a whisper, broken by the oxygen hissing through the tube. Why are you here? Something flickered across his face, so fast I almost missed it. His jaw tightened, and for a moment, he looked away, toward the rain-streaked window. When he spoke again, his voice had dropped even lower, almost gentle. 3 months ago, you found something in my mother's study. A ledger. You didn't know what it was, but you knew it was important. Ice flooded my veins. I remembered. God, I remembered. I'd been cleaning, moving a vase, and the book had fallen from behind it, leather-bound, filled with names and numbers I didn't understand. I'd picked it up, started to put it back, when Mrs. Castellano had walked in. The look on her face had terrified me. I'm sorry, I gasped now, panic rising. I didn't read it, I swear, You gave it to her, he interrupted, and there was something in his tone I couldn't identify. Immediately. You didn't ask questions, didn't look through it, didn't try to understand what you'd found. You just handed it over and went back to polishing silver. My hands were shaking. I didn't want trouble. I needed the job, That ledger, he said, leaning forward slightly. And suddenly the space between us felt charged, dangerous, contained information about a theft. Money stolen from my organization. Millions of dollars. The names in that book were suspects. People I trusted. People close to my family. I couldn't breathe. Couldn't think. This was how people disappeared. This was how bodies ended up in the river. One of those names, he continued, his eyes burning into mine, was Marco Russo, my cousin, my best friend since childhood, the man who stood beside me through wars most people can't imagine. The man I would have died for, past tense, would have. Because of that ledger we investigated. We found proof. Marco had been stealing from me for 2 years, funneling money to a rival family, planning to orchestrate my death and take over everything I'd built. His voice remained perfectly calm, perfectly controlled, but I saw his hands curl into fists. If you had kept that ledger, if you had sold it or shown it to the wrong people, the investigation would have been compromised. Marco would have been warned. He would have killed me, killed my mother, and taken everything. The room tilted. I gripped the sheets, trying to anchor myself to reality. You saved my life, Elena. You saved my mother's life, and you had no idea you were doing it. I was just doing my job, I whispered. No. He leaned even closer, and I could feel the heat of him, the overwhelming presence that made the hospital room feel smaller. You were honest. In a world where everyone wants something, where loyalty is bought and sold like merchandise, you were simply honest. His hand moved, slowly, deliberately, and I flinched. But he didn't touch me. His fingers stopped inches from my face, hovering there like he was afraid I might shatter. My mother told me about you yesterday. How sick you were. How you'd been coming to work even when you could barely stand because you needed the money for treatments you could never afford. His voice had gone soft, almost reverent. She said you never complained, never asked for help, never expected anyone to care. Tears burned my eyes. Mrs. Castellano had been kind in her distant way, but I'd never imagined she'd noticed. Never imagined she'd told him. I want to help you, Mr. Castellano said. I laughed, a broken, bitter sound. The doctors here said, there are other doctors, better doctors. Experimental treatments, specialists in Switzerland, Germany, places where money opens doors that talent alone can't. Hope was a poison I couldn't afford to drink. I shook my head weakly. I can't. I don't have... I know. His hand finally made contact. Just his fingertips, barely grazing my wrist where my pulse hammered too fast. The touch sent electricity through my dying nerves. I'm offering to pay. Everything. All of it. The heart monitor screamed. The guard opened the door, hand on his weapon, but Mr. Castellano waved him away without looking. Why? The word tore out of me. Why would you do this? I'm nobody. You're the woman who saved my life without knowing it, without wanting anything in return. His fingers wrapped around my wrist now, gentle but unbreakable, like a shackle made of silk. I don't forget debts, Elena, and I protect what's mine. What's mine? The words hung between us, heavy with implications I was too frightened and too desperate to examine. This was a man who ruled through fear, who'd probably killed with those same careful hands. This was a world I didn't belong in, couldn't survive, but I was dying anyway. His phone buzzed. He glanced at it, and his expression shifted, something dark and violent moving behind his eyes before he buried it. When he looked back at me, his face was unreadable again. I have to go. There's a situation that requires my attention. He stood, and immediately the room felt colder. But my people will stay. Arrangements are being made. By tomorrow you'll be transferred to a private facility. The best doctors, the best care, whatever it takes. He moved toward the door and panic seized me. This felt like a dream, like something that would evaporate the moment he left, leaving me alone with the beeping machines and chemical smell. Wait, I breathed. He paused, hand on the doorframe, looking back over his shoulder. What do you want from me? I needed to know. Needed to understand what debt I was incurring, what price I'd eventually have to pay. For a long moment, he just stared at me. Then something that might have been a smile touched his lips, cold and dangerous and beautiful. Everything, he said simply. But for now, just live. The door closed behind him, leaving me alone with the rain and the beeping and a terror that felt somehow different from dying, because I'd just made a deal with the devil, and I didn't even know what I'd promised him in return. They moved me at dawn. I woke to hands lifting me, gentle but efficient, transferring me from the narrow hospital bed to a stretcher so padded it felt like floating on clouds. My vision swam with morphine and confusion as faces in surgical masks worked around me, disconnecting monitors, reconnecting others, moving with the synchronized precision of a military operation. Wait, I tried to say, but my voice was just a thread of sound. Where? Shh, Miss Moretti, a woman's voice, professional and warm. We're taking you somewhere better. Just rest. Through the fog of medication, I caught glimpses, the hospital corridor sliding past above me, fluorescent lights creating a strobing effect. The guards flanking us, hands inside their jackets, eyes scanning every doorway. The ambulance waiting at a private exit, not the emergency entrance where people might see, might ask questions. This wasn't a normal transfer. This was an extraction. The ambulance interior looked like something from a science fiction film. Equipment I'd never seen, monitors displaying information I couldn't interpret. A doctor sat beside me, an older man with kind eyes and expensive clothes that had no business being in an ambulance. Elena, he said in accented English, German, maybe Swiss. My name is Dr. Werner. I've reviewed your case. I won't lie to you, you're very sick. But I've treated patients in similar conditions, and some of them are alive today, living full lives. Some, not all, but some was infinitely more than the zero I'd been given. Mr. Castellano, I started, has secured you a place in our facility. Dr. Werner interrupted smoothly. The cost and arrangements are not your concern. Your only job is to fight. Can you do that? Could I? 3 days ago, I'd been ready to surrender, to slip quietly into whatever came after this. But now, with hope burning like a coal in my chest, with the memory of dark eyes and that dangerous promise, just live, I found myself nodding. Good girl, Dr. Werner said, and something about the phrase made me think of Mr. Castellano's voice, the way he'd looked at me like I was both fragile and precious. The ambulance stopped at a private airfield. Through the tinted windows, I saw a jet, sleek, white, with no commercial markings. The guards surrounded us as they carried me out, forming a human shield between me and the gray morning. Rain had given way to mist, turning everything soft and dreamlike. Someone had thought of everything. A medical team waited on the plane, the interior configured as a flying hospital room. As we lifted off, I watched the city shrink below, the place where I'd scrubbed floors and counted pennies, and never imagined my life could be anything more than survival. Now I was flying over it in a private jet, bought and paid for by a man whose name made grown men flinch. What did that make me? The facility in Switzerland was nothing like the hospital I'd left. We landed at another private airfield, and they drove me through mountains dusted with early snow to a building that looked more like a luxury resort than a medical center. Glass and steel and clean lines, surrounded by pine forests and pristine silence. My room had a view of the Alps. I would have laughed if I'd had the strength. 24 hours ago, I'd been dying in a room barely big enough for the bed. Now I had a suite with artwork on the walls and furniture that probably cost more than my entire life's earnings. The treatments started immediately. Dr. Werner explained each one. Experimental immunotherapy, targeted radiation, medications so new they didn't have names yet, just numbers and letters. They pumped chemicals into my veins that burned like liquid fire, made me vomit until there was nothing left, stole my hair in handfuls, but they also gave me mornings where I could sit up without gasping. Days where the pain receded from unbearable to merely constant. Weeks where blood tests showed numbers moving in the right direction. I was fighting, and slowly, impossibly, I was winning. Mr. Castellano didn't visit. I told myself I didn't care, that I shouldn't care. He'd paid his debt, bought me this chance at life, and now we were even. Whatever strange intensity had passed between us in that hospital room was just a fever dream, morphine and desperation creating something that didn't exist. But his presence was everywhere anyway. The guards who stood outside my door, rotating in 8-hour shifts. The fresh flowers that appeared in my room every morning. White roses, never any other color. The reports that Dr. Werner submitted weekly, updates on my progress that I knew went to someone who wasn't my family, because I didn't have family anymore. 3 months into treatment, I was strong enough to walk the facility's gardens. A guard followed at a discreet distance, a different man now, younger, with nervous eyes that darted to every shadow. I didn't know his name. I'd learned not to ask. They rotated too frequently for names to matter. The garden was beautiful in the way that things become when you've nearly lost the ability to see them. Late autumn had turned the leaves to gold and crimson, and the air smelled like pine and approaching snow. I sat on a bench near a fountain, watching water cascade over stone, letting the sound wash through me. My phone buzzed. I'd been given a new one, top of the line. Untraceable according to the guard who'd handed it to me. There was only one number programmed in it. Unknown caller. My hands shook as I answered. Elena. His voice, after 3 months of silence, hit me like a physical thing. Lower than I remembered, rougher, like he'd been drinking or smoking or not sleeping. Mr. Castellano, I managed. Dante. A pause. My name is Dante. I think we're past formalities. Dante. It suited him, both elegant and infernal. I closed my eyes, trying to steady my breathing. Why are you calling? Dr. Werner says you're improving. That the latest scans show the tumors shrinking. Another pause, longer this time. I wanted to hear your voice, to know it was true. Something in my chest twisted. You could have visited. You didn't have to. Yes, I did. His voice went hard, final. You needed to focus on healing, not on complications. And I had matters to handle. Marco's betrayal went deeper than the money. There were others involved. It took time to root them all out, root them out. Such a gentle phrase for what I knew he meant. Bodies in unmarked graves. Families that would never know what happened to their sons, their fathers, their brothers. I should have been horrified, should have hung up, demanded to leave this golden cage, return to whatever life I could scrape together on my own. But instead, I found myself asking, is it finished? Yes. Satisfaction edged his tone. Everything is handled. The family is secure. My mother is safe. Good, I said, and meant it, and some part of me wondered when I'd become someone who could feel relief about a man orchestrating deaths. I'm coming to see you, Dante said. It wasn't a question or a request, just a statement of fact. Tomorrow. I've stayed away long enough. My heart rate spiked so sharply that the guard looked over, concerned. I waved him off, trying to control the panic and anticipation warring in my chest. "Why?" I whispered. "Because you're mine, Elena." That phrase again, the one that had haunted me through months of needles and nausea and nights when I wanted to surrender. "You became mine the moment I decided to save you, and I protect what's mine, always." The line went dead. I sat in the garden until the sun set, until the guard gently suggested I come inside before I caught cold, until the white roses in my room seemed to glow in the lamplight like tiny moons. That night, I dreamed of dark eyes and dangerous hands, of being held so tightly I couldn't breathe but didn't want to. Morning came with fresh snow and fresh terror. They brought me new clothes, not hospital gowns, but real clothes. A cashmere sweater in deep burgundy, tailored pants that fit perfectly, soft leather boots. Someone had measured me, knew my size, anticipated this moment. The invasion of privacy should have angered me. Instead, I put them on with trembling hands and stared at myself in the mirror. The woman looking back was almost a stranger. Thinner, yes. The treatments had stolen pounds I couldn't afford to lose. My hair was growing back in uneven patches, covered now by a silk scarf, but my eyes looked alive again, bright with fear and something else I refused to name. He arrived at noon. I heard the commotion from my room, the sudden tension in the building, the sound of multiple vehicles, the clipped professional voices of men used to violence. My hands fisted in the cashmere, and I forced myself to breathe. The knock, when it came, was gentle. "Come in," I said, hating how my voice shook. Dante Castellano entered like a storm made flesh. He wore all black today, sweater, pants, coat that swept behind him like wings. But it was his face that stopped my breath. Those sharp features looked carved from marble, beautiful and merciless. A fresh bruise marked his jaw, and I saw healing cuts on his knuckles when he pulled off his leather gloves. He'd been in a fight, recently. "Elena." My name was a prayer and a claim. He moved toward me slowly, like I was a wild animal he might spook. "You look like I've been dying," I supplied bitterly. "Alive." He stopped 3 feet away, those dark eyes roaming over me with an intensity that made my skin burn. "You look gloriously, defiantly alive." The silence stretched. I didn't know what to say, how to act around this man who'd bought my life and now stood in my room like he owned it, like he owned me. "The reports don't do you justice," he continued softly. "Dr. Werner's clinical descriptions, the numbers and percentages, they told me you were surviving, but seeing you..." His hand lifted, hovering near my face like it had in the hospital, like he was afraid to touch. "May I?" I should have said no, should have stepped back, established boundaries, protected whatever was left of myself that hadn't been claimed by needles and machines and his money. I nodded. His fingers brushed my cheek, feather light, reverent, tracing the curve of my face like he was memorizing it through touch. His thumb grazed my lower lip, and I gasped, the sound small and helpless. "I've thought about you every day," Dante murmured, stepping closer until I could smell him, that cedar and danger scent that had haunted me. "Every single day. While I was handling business, while I was making men pay for their betrayals, while I was building empires on their graves, you were there, in my head, under my skin. That's not..." I tried to think, to form coherent thoughts, but his proximity was overwhelming. "That's not normal. You don't even know me. I know you're honest in a world of liars. Brave when you have every reason to surrender. Strong enough to endure hell and come back breathing." His other hand came up, cradling my face between his palms. "I know that you saved my life and asked for nothing, that you're fighting for yours now with everything you have. What else do I need to know? That I'm terrified of you," I admitted, the truth falling out uncensored. "That you're a criminal. That people die because of you. That this..." I gestured helplessly at the room, the facility, the impossible luxury, "isn't real. It's a cage made of gold and good intentions. And I don't know what happens when you get tired of keeping me." Something dark flashed through his expression. Pain, maybe, or anger. His hands tightened fractionally on my face. "I will never tire of you, Elena. You don't understand yet, but you will." He leaned closer, his breath warm against my lips. "I am a criminal. I've done things that would make you sick. I've built my empire on blood and fear, and I'd do it again without hesitation. But you—" His voice dropped to barely a whisper. "You are the first pure thing I've touched in 20 years, the first person who looked at me and didn't want something, didn't fear something, didn't calculate how to use me." "I do fear you," I insisted. "Good." His smile was sharp as a blade. "You should. But you don't fear me enough to push me away, do you?" He was right. God help me. He was right. Even knowing what he was, what he'd done, I couldn't bring myself to step back from his touch. Couldn't stop the warmth spreading through my chest at his words, the treacherous hope that maybe someone this powerful could actually keep me safe. "What do you want from me?" I asked again. The same question I'd posed in the hospital. But this time, I wasn't sure I wanted the answer. Dante's expression softened into something almost tender. Almost. "For now, I want you to finish healing, to grow strong enough that when I take you home, you can stand beside me without breaking." His thumb stroked my cheek. "And then, Elena Moretti, I want everything. Your time, your trust, your presence in my life. I want you in my home, at my table, in my bed. I want you to be mine in every way that matters." The casual possessiveness should have repulsed me, should have sent me running. Instead, I found myself asking, "And what will I be? Your mistress? Your pet?" "My wife," he said simply, and the world tilted. I jerked back, but his hands held me gently in place. "You're insane. You can't just— we barely— I know." His calm was infuriating. "I know it's too fast, too much. I know you need time, but I also know what I want, Elena. I've known since that night in the hospital, when you looked at me like I was a monster and still asked me to wait. Since I realized that you're the only person in my world who doesn't want to use me or fear me or worship me. You just want to survive, and I want to be the reason you do." Tears burned my eyes, frustration, fear, and something desperately close to longing. "This isn't a fairy tale. You can't just buy me and expect—" "I'm not buying you." His voice went hard. "I'm claiming you. There's a difference. You can refuse. You can walk away from all of this, go back to whatever life you want, and I'll let you go. The medical care will continue regardless. You'll want for nothing. But Elena—" He leaned his forehead against mine, and his next words were barely audible. "Please don't. Please let me keep you. Let me protect you. Let me give you everything you've never had." It was the pleas that broke me. This man who commanded armies, who killed without hesitation, who bent the world to his will, he was asking. Begging, almost. And I was so tired of being alone. So tired of fighting with nothing to fight for. "I need time," I whispered. "Then take it." He pressed a kiss to my forehead, chaste, gentle, devastating. "Take all the time you need. I'll be here. Always here." He released me, stepped back, and the loss of his touch felt like cold water. But his eyes never left mine as he moved to the door. "My mother wants to visit you," he said. "She's been worried. I told her maybe next week, when you're feeling stronger." "Okay," I managed. He paused at the threshold, looking back with an expression I couldn't read. "The flowers. You never mentioned them. The roses? Do you like them? I can have them changed if—" "They're perfect," I interrupted. "White roses they're perfect." His smile this time was real, small, but genuine. It transformed his face, made him look younger, almost vulnerable. "Good, because they mean something,
In my
Elena.
world,
White roses mean promises. Protection. Forever." Then he was gone, leaving me alone with the scent of his cologne and the weight of promises I didn't know if I could keep. I sank onto the bed, my legs giving out, and stared at the fresh bouquet on the nightstand. White roses, pristine and perfect, promising things that girls like me weren't supposed to believe in. But for the first time in my life, I wanted to. God help me. I wanted to believe. Mrs. Castellano arrived on a Tuesday morning wrapped in Chanel and the kind of elegance that came from generations of wealth. I watched from my window as her car pulled up. A sleek black Mercedes with tinted windows and 2 security vehicles flanking it. Even at 70, she moved with the grace of old money and older secrets. I'd smoothed down my sweater a dozen times, checked my scarf in the mirror, tried to calm the nervous flutter in my stomach. This woman had employed me for 3 years, and I'd barely spoken 50 words to her in all that time. Now I was supposed to sit with her as an equal, or something close to it. The knock was brisk, professional. When I opened the door, she stood there looking exactly as I remembered, silver hair swept into an elegant chignon, pearls at her throat, eyes that missed nothing. Elena. She swept into the room without waiting for invitation, and I caught the scent of her perfume, something French and expensive. "You look thin. Are they feeding you properly here?" The mundane concern in her voice, so at odds with the surreal situation, almost made me laugh. "Yes, ma'am. The treatment's just... Margarita." She settled into the chair by the window with practiced grace. "We're past, ma'am, don't you think? Considering my son has decided you're to be part of the family." Heat flooded my face. "He told you." "Dante tells me very little these days. He's become quite protective of his privacy, especially where you're concerned." She studied me with those sharp eyes, and I felt like a specimen under glass. "But I know my son. I've seen him focused on business, on survival, on building his empire. I've never seen him focused on a woman. Not like this." I didn't know what to say to that, didn't know how to explain that I was still trying to understand it myself. "Sit, child. You're making me nervous hovering there like you're about to run." Margarita's voice gentled. "I came to thank you. Dante told me what you did finding that ledger. You saved both our lives and you didn't even know it." "I was just cleaning," I said quietly, sitting on the edge of the bed. "I didn't..." "Exactly." She leaned forward, her expression intense. "You were just doing your job, just being honest. Do you have any idea how rare that is in our world? How many people would have seen an opportunity in that ledger, would have tried to profit from it or use it as leverage?" I shook my head. "Marco was my nephew," she continued, and pain flickered across her refined features. "My sister's boy. I helped raise him after she died, and he betrayed us. Tried to kill my son, steal everything we'd built because of greed, because loyalty meant nothing to him." Her hands gripped her pearl necklace. "But you, a girl we barely noticed, who we paid barely enough to survive, you were loyal without even trying to be. You were honest because that's who you are." Tears pricked my eyes. "Mrs. Castellano, Margarita, I don't know if I can be what Dante wants. I don't belong in this world. I don't understand the rules. Neither did I once." A small smile touched her lips. "I was a schoolteacher when I met Dante's father. Young, naive, full of ideas about right and wrong. Antonio was already deep in the family business, already stained with things I couldn't let myself think about. But he loved me. Truly, completely. And he taught me that this world isn't black and white. It's 1,000 shades of gray, and survival means finding your shade and living with it." She reached over and took my hand, her grip surprisingly strong. "My son is dangerous, Elena. He's ruthless and violent and capable of terrible things, but he's also fiercely loyal, protective to a fault, and when he loves with everything he has. His father was the same way." "Was?" I asked softly. "Killed 15 years ago, a rival family." Her voice remained steady, but I saw the grief in her eyes. "Dante was 23. He had to take over the family business overnight. Had to prove himself capable of leading, of being feared. He became hard because he had to, but underneath..." She squeezed my hand. "Underneath, he's still the boy who used to bring me flowers from the garden, who cried when our dog died, who swore he'd always protect me. The image didn't fit with the man I knew. Cold, controlled, terrifying. But then I remembered the gentle way he'd touched my face, the pleas he'd whispered, the vulnerability hidden behind all that power. I'm scared," I admitted. "Good. Fear will keep you smart." Margarita released my hand and stood. "But don't let it keep you from living. Don't let it keep you from taking what's being offered. My son wants to give you the world, Elena. The question is, are you brave enough to take it? She left, with the same brisk efficiency she'd arrived with. But the white roses on my nightstand had multiplied. Now there were 2 bouquets, and tucked among the stems of the new one was a note in elegant handwriting. Welcome to the family. M. The weeks blurred together after that. Treatment cycles, good days and bad days, my body slowly winning the war against itself. Dr. Werner became cautiously optimistic. The tumors were shrinking faster than expected. My blood work showed steady improvement. I was, against all odds, getting better. Dante visited every Sunday. He never stayed long, an hour, maybe 2. But those visits became the axis my week rotated around. We talked about everything and nothing. He told me about his mother's charity work, about the legitimate businesses he was trying to build alongside the illegal ones, about his plans to eventually transition the family into something cleaner. I told him about my childhood, about parents I'd lost too young, about the foster homes and the struggle to survive, about dreams I'd buried under the weight of just getting through each day. He never touched me beyond those careful caresses, a hand on my cheek, fingers brushing mine, his palm warm against my back when he helped me walk the gardens. But the restraint felt deliberate, like he was holding himself back with visible effort. Why? I asked one afternoon as we sat by the fountain, dead leaves skittering across the stone. Why don't you... you said you wanted everything, he finished, his dark eyes finding mine. I do. But not until you're strong enough to choose it freely. Not until there's no question that you're with me because you want to be. Not because you feel obligated or trapped. That's very... I searched for the word. Ethical. For a mobster. His laugh was low and genuine. Don't mistake patience for ethics, Elena. I'm being strategic. When I finally have you, and I will have you, I want all of you. No doubts, no reservations, no wondering if you only said yes because you felt you had to. The certainty in his voice sent shivers down my spine. You're very sure of yourself. I'm sure of us. He caught my hand, threading his fingers through mine. You feel it too. Don't tell me you don't. I couldn't. Because he was right. Somewhere between the hospital room and the white roses and these careful Sunday visits, something had shifted. The fear was still there, probably always would be, but it had been joined by something else. Want. Need. A desperate, treacherous hope that maybe this impossible thing could actually be real. I'm almost done with treatment, I said quietly. Dr. Werner says maybe 2 more months, then observation. Then you come home. Dante's grip tightened. To New York. To me. Is that what you want? For me to just move into your house? Become your wife? The word was firm. I told you what I wanted, Elena. That hasn't changed. We barely know each other. I know you take your coffee with too much sugar and no cream. That you hate the smell of jasmine but love roses. That you read romance novels when you think no one's watching and cry at the endings. His thumb stroked across my knuckles. I know you're stronger than you think you are, braver than you believe, and more deserving of happiness than you'll admit. What else matters? The fact that you kill people for a living? I suggested weakly. I protect my family and my interests. Sometimes that requires violence. I won't apologize for it or pretend to be something I'm not. His expression hardened. But I will never, ever let that violence touch you. You'll be safe with me, Elena. Always. A guard approached, spoke to Dante in rapid Italian. Whatever he said made Dante's jaw tighten, his eyes go cold and dangerous. I have to go, he said, standing. There's a situation that requires my attention. What kind of situation? He looked down at me, and for a moment I saw the killer everyone else feared. The kind where someone forgot that what's mine is not to be touched. I need to remind them. Ice slid through my veins. Dante. Don't. He leaned down, pressed a kiss to my forehead. Don't ask me about this part of my life. You don't need to know, don't need to carry it. Just trust that I'll handle it and come back to you. Can you do that? I should have said no, should have demanded answers, insisted on knowing what he was about to do. But the truth was, I didn't want to know. Didn't want to face the reality of what loving this man would mean, because I was falling in love with him. Somewhere between fear and gratitude and these stolen Sunday afternoons, I'd fallen. "Be careful," I whispered instead. His smile was sharp and cold. "Always am, amore mio." He left, and I watched his car disappear down the mountain road, surrounded by guards and violence I couldn't see but knew was there. That night, I couldn't sleep. I paced my room, stared at the white roses, tried to reconcile the gentle man who brought me flowers with the one who'd left to handle a situation with murder in his eyes. My phone buzzed at 2 a.m. Unknown caller. "Dante?" I answered immediately, heart racing. "It's handled." His voice was rough, exhausted. "Everything's handled. Go to sleep, Elena." Did you... I couldn't finish the question. "Yes." No elaboration, no excuses. Just that single word, heavy with implications. "Okay," I breathed. "Okay?" He sounded surprised. "That's it? No horror, no accusations?" "I knew what you were when I started caring about you." The admission fell out unbidden. "I knew. And I care anyway. I don't know what that makes me." Silence stretched between us, broken only by his breathing on the other end of the line. "Mine," he finally said, his voice raw. "It makes you mine. Say it, Elena. Tell me you're mine." I closed my eyes, felt tears slip down my cheeks, tasted the moment my life split into before and after. "I'm yours," I whispered. The sound he made was almost a groan. Relief and possession and something darker. 2 months. That's all the time I'm giving you to finish treatment. Then you're coming home to me, and I'm never letting you go. Understand? Yes. Say it again. Say you're mine. "I'm yours, Dante." And saying it felt like falling and flying at the same time. "Good girl." The praise in his voice made me shiver. "Now sleep. Dream of me. Dream of the life we're going to have." He hung up, leaving me alone with my racing heart and the white roses and the terrifying, exhilarating knowledge that I'd just surrendered to a man who would either save me or destroy me. Probably both. The final 2 months passed in a haze of improving health and growing anticipation. My hair grew back in soft waves. Color returned to my cheeks. Strength returned to my limbs. Dr. Werner ran test after test, each one showing better results than the last. "Miraculous," he said during my final exam. "I've seen spontaneous remissions before, but never quite like this. Whatever you're fighting for, Elena, it's working." I was fighting for Sunday visits and white roses and dark eyes that looked at me like I was precious. Fighting for a future I'd never imagined I could have. Fighting for him. Margarita visited twice more, bringing clothes and advice and stories about Dante as a boy that made him seem almost human. She never mentioned his business, never acknowledged the darkness. But I saw her glance at her guards, saw the way she checked corners and exits even in the safest places. This was the life I was choosing. Beautiful and terrifying in equal measure. On my last day at the facility, Dr. Werner presented me with my final results. "You're in remission, Elena, full remission. You'll need regular monitoring, but as of today, you're cancer-free." I should have cried with joy, should have celebrated. Instead, I felt a strange sense of unreality, like I was watching someone else's life unfold. "Thank you," I managed, "for everything." "Thank Mr. Castellano," Dr. Werner said with a knowing smile. "His investment in your care made all the difference. And his insistence that we never give up, that we try every possible treatment, that kind of determination is rare." That night, Dante called. "Tomorrow," he said without preamble. "I'm coming to get you tomorrow. Pack whatever you want to bring. Everything else will be provided." "Dante, Are you having second thoughts?" His voice went carefully neutral. "Because now is the time to tell me, Elena. Before you're in my house, in my bed, in my life, completely. Tell me now if you can't do this." I looked around the room that had been my home for 6 months, at the white roses, fresh as always, at the view of mountains I'd never see again, at the life I was leaving behind. Small and simple and safe. No second thoughts, I said firmly. Come get me. Take me home. The sound of his breath releasing told me how much tension he'd been carrying. I'll be there at noon. Be ready, amore mio, because once I have you, I'm never letting you go. Promise? The word came out smaller than I intended. On my life, he said. On everything I am and everything I have. You're mine now, Elena, forever. Forever. Such an impossible word. Such a dangerous promise. But as I fell asleep that night, I dreamed of it anyway, of forever with a man who'd bought my life and was now claiming my heart. And somewhere in the darkness, I heard myself whisper yes. The jet touched down in New York on a gray December afternoon, the city sprawling beneath us like a constellation of steel and ambition. I pressed my palm against the window, watching buildings rise to meet us, and felt my stomach twist with nerves that had nothing to do with the descent. 6 months ago, I'd left this city dying. Now I was returning as someone completely different. Someone who belonged to a man I both feared and craved in equal measure. Dante waited on the tarmac. Even from the plane's doorway, I could see him, standing beside a black SUV, hands in the pockets of his charcoal coat, surrounded by guards who looked like they'd kill at his slightest gesture. The wind whipped his dark hair, and when our eyes met across the distance, I felt the impact like a physical blow. He started walking before I'd finished descending the stairs. Met me at the bottom, and for a moment we just stared at each other. This man who'd saved me, this woman who'd somehow saved him first. Then his hands cupped my face and he kissed me. Not gentle, not tentative, deep and claiming and fierce, like he was branding me with his mouth. His tongue swept against mine and I gasped, clutching his coat to keep from falling. Months of restraint shattered in that single kiss, and I tasted his hunger, his possession, his absolute certainty that I belonged to him now. When he finally pulled back, we were both breathing hard. His eyes had gone almost black, pupils blown wide with want. Welcome home, Elena, he murmured against my lips. My home. Our home. He kept one arm around me as we walked to the SUV, like he couldn't bear to not be touching me. The guards maintained their perimeter, eyes scanning the airfield, hands ready. This was his world. Constant vigilance, constant danger, constant awareness that threats could come from anywhere. And I was part of it now. The drive into the city was surreal. Dante sat close enough that our thighs pressed together, his hand possessive on my knee. He didn't speak much, just watched me with an intensity that made my skin feel too tight. Nervous? He asked finally. Terrified, I admitted. Of me? Of everything. It's all happening so fast. His hand tightened. We can slow down. I can take you to one of my other properties, give you space to adjust. No. The word came out fierce. No, I don't want space. I turned to meet his eyes. I want what you promised. Everything. Something dangerous flashed across his face. Careful, amore mio. You're testing my control, and it's already hanging by a thread. Maybe I want it to break. He growled, actually growled, and pulled me against him, capturing my mouth again. This kiss was rougher, desperate, his teeth grazing my bottom lip hard enough to sting. His hand slid into my hair, angling my head exactly where he wanted it, and I melted into him, into the heat and hardness and overwhelming presence of him. Boss. The driver's voice cut through the haze. We're here. Dante pulled back slowly, deliberately, his breathing ragged. Inside, he said. We finish this inside. The building was in Tribeca, all glass and steel and modern luxury, but Dante didn't take me through the front entrance. We went through a private garage, into a private elevator that required both a key card and fingerprint scan. Security cameras tracked our ascent, and I knew armed guards monitored every feed. This was a fortress disguised as a home. The elevator opened directly into the penthouse, and I stepped out into a space that stole my breath. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city, and the interior was all clean lines and expensive materials, marble and dark wood and leather, masculine, powerful, exactly what I'd expected. but there were white roses everywhere. On the entry table, the coffee table, the dining table. Dozens of bouquets turning the stark space softer, gentler. For me. Your room is the master suite, Dante said, walking me through the space. Or it can be. You can have your own room if you prefer, but He stopped, jaw tight. I want you in my bed, Elena, from tonight forward. But it's your choice. My heart hammered. What if I disappoint you? I don't have experience with, I gestured helplessly. Any of this. He turned to face me fully, and the look on his face was almost reverent. You think I don't know that? You think I haven't savored the knowledge that I'll be your first, your only? His hands framed my face. I will teach you everything, amore mio. I will teach you pleasure and desire, and exactly how to take me apart. And I will worship every sound you make, every gasp, every moment you give yourself to me. Heat flooded through me, pooling low in my belly. Dante. But first, he interrupted, stepping back with visible effort, you need to eat. Real food, not hospital meals. And we need to talk about expectations, about what this life entails. He was right, but I wanted to protest anyway, wanted to pull him back, to finish what his kisses had started. But he was already moving toward the kitchen, pulling out his phone to order food, creating distance between us, giving me space to adjust, even when I didn't want it. Dinner arrived within 30 minutes. Italian, naturally. Dante had the table set with formal china, like this was a date instead of whatever this was. We ate in relative silence, the tension between us thick enough to choke on. There are rules, he said finally, setting down his fork. Things you need to understand about being with me. I put down my own fork, suddenly not hungry. Okay. You don't leave this building without security. Ever. Even if you're just going to the corner store, you take a guard. That seems non-negotiable. His tone went hard. People know who I am, what I do. You're a target now, Elena, a way to get to me. I will not risk you. The reality of it settled over me like a weight. Okay, you don't talk about my business. Not to friends, not to strangers, not even to my mother, unless she brings it up first. What you see, what you hear, it stays between us. I don't have friends to talk to anyway. Something softened in his expression. You will. I'll introduce you to the wives, the girlfriends, women who understand this life, who can guide you. But they need to be vetted first, need to be proven trustworthy. More isolation, more control. But I'd known this was coming, hadn't I? Known what choosing him would mean? What else? I asked. You're mine. He leaned forward, eyes intense. Exclusively, completely mine. I won't share you, won't tolerate other men looking at you with interest, won't accept anything less than absolute fidelity. I would never. I know. He caught my hand across the table, but I'm telling you anyway, so there's no confusion. You belong to me now, Elena. Body, heart, and I belong to you the same way. This isn't casual. This isn't temporary. This is forever. Forever. That word again, heavy with promise and threat. And if I break the rules, I had to ask. His smile was sharp. Then I'll punish you. Not with violence. I'd cut off my own hands before I hurt you. But there are other ways to ensure obedience. Ways that will make you think twice before defying me again. The dark promise in his voice sent contradictory shivers through me, fear and arousal tangled together. You like control. I need it. He stood, came around the table, pulled me to my feet. In my world, control is survival. Chaos gets people killed. I control everything in my empire, Elena, including you. He walked me backward until my spine hit the window, the city lights sprawling behind me. His hands bracketed my head, caging me in. But here's what you need to understand, he murmured, his mouth inches from mine. I will control you, possess you, demand everything from you, but I will also protect you with my last breath, give you anything you desire, and make sure you never want for anything, including pleasure. His hand slid down my side, over my hip, pulling me flush against him. I felt the hard evidence of his desire, and my breath caught. Tell me you understand, he demanded. Tell me you accept these terms. I should have been frightened, should have pushed him away, demanded equality, refused to be owned. But the truth was, I wanted this. Wanted him. Wanted to surrender to someone strong enough to keep me safe in a world I didn't understand. I understand, I whispered. I accept. Say it properly. Say you're mine. I'm yours, Dante. Completely yours. He made that sound again, that possessive growl, and claimed my mouth in a kiss that tasted like ownership. His hands roamed my body, learning curves that had filled out during treatment, memorizing the shape of me through my clothes. Bedroom, he muttered against my lips. Now. Before I take you against this window where half the city can see. He lifted me effortlessly, and I wrapped my legs around his waist, clinging to his shoulders as he carried me through the penthouse. The master suite was enormous, dominated by a massive bed with black silk sheets. More white roses on the nightstands, their scent mingling with Dante's cologne. He set me down gently, then stepped back, his chest heaving. Last chance, Elena. Last chance to say no, to ask for more time. Once I have you, there's no going back. You'll be mine in every way that matters. I reached for the hem of my sweater, pulled it over my head, stood before him in just my bra and pants, my heart racing but my hands steady. No more waiting, I said. Make me yours. The restraint shattered. He was on me in seconds, his mouth hot on my neck, my collarbone, the swell of my breasts. His hands made quick work of my bra, and when his lips closed around my nipple, I gasped, my fingers digging into his hair. So perfect, he murmured between kisses. So fucking perfect. He stripped us both with efficient desperation, and then we were skin to skin, heat to heat. I felt vulnerable and powerful at once, lying beneath him while he looked at me like I was something sacred. I'll go slow, he promised, his hand sliding between my thighs, finding me ready. I'll make it good for you, amore mio. Dante. I arched into his touch. Please. He took me with a gentleness that contrasted sharply with his earlier hunger. Slow, careful, watching my face for any sign of pain. There was discomfort, unavoidable for a first time. But he kissed it away, murmured praise and possession until pleasure overtook everything else. And when we finally moved together, when he filled me completely, I understood what it meant to be claimed, to be owned, to be treasured. Mine. He breathed against my neck as we found our rhythm. Say it. Yours, I gasped, always yours. Afterward, we lay tangled together, my head on his chest, his arms wrapped around me like chains made of flesh and bone. The city glittered beyond the windows, but I only had eyes for him. I love you, I said quietly, the words escaping before I could stop them. He went still. Then his arms tightened, nearly crushing me. Say it again. I love you, Dante. He rolled me beneath him, his eyes blazing. I've loved you since that hospital room. Since you looked at me like I was a monster and still asked me to stay. Since I realized you were the only pure thing in my corrupted world. He kissed me deeply. You're my salvation, Elena. My redemption. My everything. That's a lot of pressure, I managed, half laughing, half crying. You can handle it. You survived cancer, survived meeting me, survived choosing this life. You can handle anything. His smile was fierce, and I'll be right here, making sure you never have to handle it alone. We made love again, slower this time, learning each other's bodies, discovering what made the other gasp and moan. By the time we finally slept, tangled together in sheets that smelled like sex and roses, the sun was beginning to rise over New York. I woke to Dante watching me, his hand stroking my hair. Morning, I murmured sleepily. Afternoon, he corrected. You slept for 12 hours. I didn't have the heart to wake you. I stretched, feeling pleasantly sore in places I'd never been sore before. You're still here. I half expected you to have business to attend to. I do, but it can wait. He pressed a kiss to my forehead. Today, you're my only priority. Today, I want to show you your new life. He took me shopping on Fifth Avenue, the guards following at a discreet distance, while he bought me clothes I'd never dreamed of owning. Dresses, shoes, jewelry, he insisted on everything. waving away my protests about cost like they were meaningless. "You're to be my wife," he said firmly, sliding a diamond bracelet onto my wrist. "You'll dress accordingly. We haven't even talked about—" "We will, soon," he kissed my knuckles. "But make no mistake, Elena, you will marry me. It's just a matter of when." That night, he introduced me to his inner circle at a private dinner. 6 men, all dangerous, all watching me with varying degrees of curiosity and suspicion. Dante kept his hand on my thigh throughout the meal, a possessive gesture that clearly communicated ownership. "This is Elena," he announced. "My fiancée. She is to be protected as if she were me. Any threat to her is a threat to me personally. Understood?" The men nodded, and I saw the shift in their eyes, from curiosity to calculation. They were measuring me now, trying to determine what leverage I might provide, what weakness I represented. I lifted my chin and met their gazes steadily. I might be new to this world, but I wouldn't cower. Dante's hand tightened approvingly on my thigh. After they left, he pulled me into his lap, nuzzling my neck. "You did well. They respect strength, and you showed them you have it. I was terrified. I know. But you hid it perfectly." He nipped my earlobe. "My fierce little queen." The endearment made me shiver. Queen implies I have power. You have the only power that matters. His hand slid up my thigh, power over me. That week blurred into the next. Dante was insatiable, claiming me in every room of the penthouse, teaching me pleasure I'd never imagined. But he was also surprisingly domestic, cooking breakfast while I watched, reading beside me in bed, showing me pieces of himself I suspected few people ever saw. "I want you to meet someone," he said one evening. "Someone important." The someone turned out to be a jeweler, a tiny Italian man who arrived with a case full of engagement rings. Dante sat beside me while I tried them on, his eyes never leaving my face. "That one," he said, when I slipped on a platinum band with a flawless 3-carat diamond. "That's the one." "Dante, it's too much. Nothing is too much for you." He took my hand, kissed the ring. 2 weeks. I'm giving you 2 weeks to plan whatever kind of wedding you want. Then you become Mrs. Castellano officially. 2 weeks. That's impossible. Not for me. His smile was confident. "I can make anything happen, amore mio, including the perfect wedding in 2 weeks." He was right. Money and power moved mountains, and Dante had both in abundance. Margarita took over the planning with military efficiency, consulting me on details but handling the actual execution. The guest list was small, family and trusted associates only. Security would be extensive. The venue would be Dante's private estate in the Hamptons. Everything happened so fast, I barely had time to process it. One moment I was dying alone in a hospital. The next I was being fitted for a wedding dress that cost more than I'd made in 5 years of scrubbing floors. "Are you happy?" Dante asked the night before the wedding, holding me close in bed. "Terrified," I admitted. "But yes, happy." "Good." He kissed my temple. "Because tomorrow you become mine forever. Legally, publicly, irrevocably mine. And nothing, not death, not distance, not time, will ever change that." His certainty should have frightened me. Instead, it felt like coming home. Tomorrow, I would marry a monster, and I couldn't wait. The wedding took place on a crystalline Saturday in December. The estate transformed into something from a winter fairy tale. White roses, always white roses, covered every surface, their petals dusting the aisle like snow. Candles flickered in hurricane glasses, casting golden light across the assembled guests. Beyond the windows, the ocean crashed against the shore, wild and beautiful and free. I stood in the bridal suite, staring at my reflection. The dress was ivory silk, simple and elegant, clinging to curves I'd regained through months of healing. My hair, fully grown back now, fell in soft waves around my shoulders. The diamond on my finger caught the light, throwing rainbows across the walls. "You look beautiful, child." Margarita appeared behind me, elegant in navy blue. "My son is a lucky man. I'm the lucky one," I said quietly. 6 months ago, I was dying. Now you're beginning. She squeezed my shoulders. "This family, this life, It isn't easy, but it's worth it. Trust me. A knock interrupted us. One of the guards, Marco, I'd learned his name, stood in the doorway, his expression urgent. Mrs. Castellano, there's a situation. The boss needs to handle something before the ceremony. My stomach dropped. What kind of situation? Margarita's face went hard. How serious? Serious enough. There's someone at the perimeter, someone who shouldn't be here. I moved toward the door, but Margarita caught my arm. No. You stay here. This is Dante's world, Elena. Let him handle it. But I couldn't. Not today. Not when we were supposed to be starting our life together. I pulled free and followed Marco down the hallway, ignoring Margarita's protests. The study was full of men, guards, advisors, all standing around Dante, who sat behind his desk with lethal calm. He looked up when I entered, and fury flashed across his face. Elena, get back. No. I moved to his side. What's happening? He studied me for a long moment, jaw tight. Then he sighed and pulled me into his lap, one arm wrapping around my waist. There's someone here claiming to have information about you, about your past. He says he knew your father. Ice slid through my veins. My father died when I was 8. I know. Dante's hand tightened on my hip, which makes this interesting. He's demanding money to keep quiet about whatever he thinks he knows. Extortion, basically. Rage replaced fear. On our wedding day? Someone is trying to extort you on our wedding day? Stupid, right? Dante's smile was cold. Bring him in. The guards dragged in a man I didn't recognize. Middle-aged, weathered, eyes darting nervously around the room. When he saw me, something like recognition crossed his face. Elena Moretti, he said, you've done well for yourself. From nobody to Mafia princess. Your father would be proud. You didn't know my father, I said coldly. Didn't I? Thomas Moretti, worked construction, died in an accident on a job site. He smiled unpleasantly, except it wasn't an accident. He was murdered, pushed off that building because he witnessed something he shouldn't have, something involving the Castellano family. The room went deadly quiet. Dante's hand on my hip became iron. You're lying, I whispered. Am I? Ask him. The man jerked his chin at Dante. Ask your precious fiancé if the Castellano family was involved in construction rackets 20 years ago. Ask him if they ever had to silence witnesses. Dante stood, setting me carefully aside. His expression was terrifying. Blank, cold, absolutely lethal. You have 30 seconds to tell me who sent you, he said quietly. And if you're very, very lucky, I'll kill you quickly. The man paled. Nobody sent me. I thought. You thought you could extort me on my wedding day. You thought you could upset my bride with lies about her father. Dante moved closer, and the man tried to back away, but guards held him in place. You thought wrong. It's not a lie. Thomas Moretti was murdered. I was there. I saw my father died in an accident, but my voice shook, because I'd always wondered, always questioned the official story. The police say what they're paid to say. The man spat. Your father saw a murder. Castellano men killing a union organizer who wouldn't play ball. Thomas was going to testify, so they killed him too. Made it look like an accident. I couldn't breathe. Couldn't think. The room tilted. Dante caught me, pulled me against his chest. Get him out of here, he ordered. Find out who sent him, what he really knows, then handle it. As the guards dragged the man away, his protests fading down the hallway, I pushed away from Dante's chest and looked up at him. Is it true? I demanded. Did your family kill my father? I don't know. His honesty surprised me. I was 7 when your father died, Elena. I had no part in it, no knowledge of it. But yes, my family was involved in construction rackets then. Yes, people were killed to protect our interests. It's possible. The truth hit me like a physical blow. Everything we'd built, everything we had, it might all be founded on my father's blood. I pulled away. I need air. I stumbled out onto the terrace, the December wind cutting through my wedding dress. Behind me, I heard Margarita arguing with Dante, heard his cold responses, then footsteps. Elena, Dante's voice. Look at me. I turned. He stood there in his wedding suit, heartbreakingly handsome, devastatingly dangerous, the man I loved, the family that might have destroyed mine. I will find out the truth, he said, every detail. And if my father's men killed yours, I will bring you their names, their confessions, everything. I won't hide it from you. And then what? Tears burned my eyes. What do we do with that truth, Dante? How do we build a life on blood and lies, the same way everyone in this world does? He moved closer. By choosing what matters more, the past we can't change, or the future we can build together. That's too simple. It's not simple at all. It's the hardest choice you'll ever make. He reached for my hands. But here's what I know. I love you. I will spend the rest of my life protecting you, providing for you, making you happy. My father's sins are not mine, Elena. And your father's death, if my family was responsible, I will make it right, however I can. How? I demanded. How do you make murder right? I can't, but I can honor his memory. I can make sure his daughter never wants for anything, never suffers, never dies alone in a hospital because she can't afford treatment. His grip tightened. I can build something better than what came before. Cleaner. I'm already transitioning the family businesses, cutting ties with the violent side. For you. Because of you. I wanted to stay angry, wanted to rage at the injustice of it all. But looking at him, seeing the truth in his eyes, I realized something. We were both children of this violent world, both shaped by choices we hadn't made, bound by blood we hadn't chosen. I need the truth, I said finally. All of it. No matter how ugly. You'll have it. He pulled me close. But right now I need to know. Are you still going to marry me, even knowing what you know? I closed my eyes, felt his heart beating against mine. Thought about the girl dying alone, and the woman standing here now. Thought about 6 months of white roses and careful touches and a man who'd given me back my life. Yes, I whispered. God help me. Yes. His relief was palpable. He kissed me deeply, desperately, like I might disappear if he let go. Then let's get married, he murmured against my lips. Let's start our life together, right now, and deal with the past as it comes. The ceremony was small and intense. I walked down the aisle alone, no father to give me away, just my own 2 feet carrying me toward the man who'd become my everything. Dante watched me approach with eyes that promised forever, and when I reached him, his hand trembled slightly as he took mine. Elena Moretti, the officiant began, but Dante interrupted. Wait. He turned to face me fully. Before we do this, I need to say something, in front of everyone. The room went silent. I am not a good man, Dante said, his voice carrying to every corner. I've done terrible things. I will probably do terrible things again. But you... His thumb stroked across my knuckles. You make me want to be better. You make me believe I can be more than my father's legacy, more than this blood-soaked empire. You saved my life without knowing it, and now I'm spending the rest of mine making sure you never regret choosing me. Tears slipped down my cheeks. Dante, let me finish. His smile was soft. I vow to protect you with everything I have, to provide for you beyond your wildest dreams, to love you until my last breath and beyond, to be honest even when it hurts, to be gentle even when I'm feared, to be yours completely, even when I'm everyone else's nightmare. This is my promise, Elena. Before God and family and everyone who matters, I am yours. The room was absolutely still. Even Margarita had tears in her eyes. Your turn, Dante said quietly. I took a shaky breath. I'm supposed to say traditional vows, but nothing about us is traditional. I gripped his hands tighter. 6 months ago, I had nothing. No family, no future, no hope. You gave me all of that back. You gave me life and love and a reason to fight. So I vow to stand beside you through whatever comes. To trust you even when I'm scared. To love you even when it's complicated. To be your partner, your confidant, your home. I choose you, Dante Castellano, with all your darkness and all your light. I choose us. He kissed me before the officiant could pronounce us married, and laughter rippled through the guests. When he finally pulled back, his eyes were bright. Now make it official, he told the officiant. The rest passed in a blur, rings exchanged, vows completed, The pronouncement that we were husband and wife. The reception was elegant and controlled, guards at every entrance, guests carefully vetted. But in the center of it all, Dante held me close and whispered promises in Italian that made me blush. "What are you saying?" I asked. "That I'm going to take you upstairs soon and show you exactly what it means to be my wife." His teeth grazed my ear. "That I'm going to make you scream my name so loud the guards will be uncomfortable. That I'm never letting you go. We have guests. They can leave." His hand slid dangerously low on my back. "This party is over the moment I decide it is." True to his word, we left our own reception early. Dante swept me into his arms and carried me upstairs while our guests cheered, and the moment the bedroom door closed, he was on me. "Mine," he growled against my throat, working the buttons of my dress. "My wife. My Elena. Mine." "Yours," I agreed breathlessly. "Always yours." We consummated our marriage thoroughly, desperately, until the winter sun set and rose again. And in the quiet moments between, he held me close and told me about his plans, the businesses he was buying, the legitimate empire he was building, the future where our children wouldn't have to live in fear. "Children?" I asked, surprised. "Eventually." His hand splayed across my stomach. "When you're ready. When you're strong enough. I want everything with you, Elena. Marriage, children, growing old together. All of it." The future stretched before us, complicated and dangerous and beautiful. I didn't know what tomorrow would bring. Didn't know if we'd find the truth about my father, or how I'd handle it if we did. Didn't know if I could truly be the wife of a mafia boss, the queen of an empire built on violence. But I knew I loved him, knew he loved me, knew that together, we were stronger than apart. "I love you," I whispered into the darkness. "I love you more than life," he replied. "You're my redemption, Elena, my salvation, my everything." And lying there in his arms, surrounded by white roses and winter starlight, I believed him. We'd found each other in the darkest moment, him visiting his dying maid, me surrendering to fate. What happened next had touched everyone in that hospital room, changed the trajectory of both our lives. He'd saved me. I'd saved him. And now we'd save each other every day, for the rest of our lives. It wasn't a fairy tale. It was real and messy and complicated. But it was ours, and that made it perfect.